Hello all. Oh, what a few weeks it's been. Excuse me. Been really busy with normal day-to-day life things, I think. Got quite a bit to show you tonight. We're going to do a bit of making as well, so it will be a bit of a long video. Just trying to find what I was looking for. Anyway, I'll show you the first bit that I've made, and that's this bit. You can see there. Try and get the light off it so you can see it better. So the two fall plates are on there. I said to you about that long piece, and that fits on the top of, if I can get it, fits on the drag box part of the drag beam. Sorry, not drag box, drag beam. So I've taken the drag beam off the drag box, so this is going to be riveted on the top of there. But I've just got a couple of brackets, the support brackets for the centre of it, that bolt to the top of the drag box, but they're riveted to this. Now I know this has got a little bit of paint on it, and that's really is to stop it from rusting. It's only an undercoat, so I'm not too worried if I scratch it a little bit, because it'll get a proper paint anyway. It's literally to keep the rust off it. I put a short video on YouTube the other day, a few days ago, of me silver soldering something together. That part that I was silver soldering together, I'll try and lift this up, so that cab angle in the front of the cab. Massive piece of silver soldering to go up with that, and I say massive piece because it's the actual size of it. I think it nearly used a bit of a reel. I think they're only 3-foot reels that I buy, a reel of silver solder. Now, a few comments on that. Well, a couple of comments. One of them, there was a bloke misunderstood what I said because I called it soldering, not silver soldering. His immediate comment was it's too hot, and I said I beg to differ because it's silver soldering. And then I got another comment of, you know, I wouldn't lay solder into the joint, I would dab it in. I find laying the solder into how I've done it, or how I do a lot of my silver soldering, works for me. I'm not, like I've always said in my videos, I'm not saying that what I do is correct or is right. It's how I do things. To me, it works. I get the right amount of solder into the joint that I need. The solder will go off when it gets to temperature. I haven't got to try and get it to the right temperature before I start dabbing solder in. One thing I did, after I got that comment, I thought I'm going to have a go back at doing the whole heat it up, loads of flux, heat it up and dab the solder in. And I got the same shit results that I used to get. So scratch that, I'm going back to the way I know best. And that's placing the solder in, heat it up to temperature, the flux will bubble up, go off, and then the solder runs where I want it to go. It's worked perfectly well for those small bits of angle, even though it's a large surface area. Chasing it around, yes, it's getting quite hot, but it's deceiving in the video. It looks like it's hotter than it actually is. I also said in that video, you couldn't really hear it because I didn't put a microphone on. I just spur of the moment went, oh, I'm doing this bit, I'll film it. In that short, I said about chasing the solder around, and it does look like it gets a lot hotter than it does. It's worked perfectly. It didn't warp out of shape, which I thought it would. Very hard to pickle because my tub that I'd put my pickle in, when I pickle any steel or anything, is quite small, so it was difficult to do, but it's cleaned up fine and works wonders. And the other little bit of soldering job I did is that one. See the little handrail on there, and that's for the back of the cab, the seat back. There's still some 1/8 beading to put around that edge, but I've also got to put 2 hinges in there as well for the not the gangway doors, but for the doors for the side of the cab. But I've got to make the hinges for them first, drill the holes, and then I'm going to put this half round beading around the top edge, and then that's done and it's finished. The half round beading I already had some anyway, but I got some more just in case. Is brass. I'm going to actually soft solder that on. It's not structural or anything like that, it's just to make it look nice. So I'll soft solder that onto that. Now that for me is going to be a learning curve, because I've never had to soft solder brass to steel. Never had to do it. So me doing it on this, I might do a test piece first and see how I get on, see what temperatures I've got to play with, what torch nozzle and all that stuff. If anyone out there has got any tips on how they do it, please send them my way, because I'm all ears. It's always best to try and have a bit of an idea off somebody else that does it regularly and knows what they're doing, than it is to have a go and, you know, test piece after test piece to see how you get on. The drag box I put into the frames temporarily, just so I could work out one or two bits. You'll notice, you saw the pictures I put on Facebook and in the community page on YouTube of me tapping the sides. So I managed to extend my riveting tool stroke tapping station to stand that drag box up on its end, so it'll keep the holes nice and vertical to the tap, and away they went. Spot on. I received some parts from Ed, some laser cut parts. One of them being this little funny thing here. Now this is going to become the reverser. It's a lifting mount, so the reverser itself sits above it, and this raises it up. This raises the level up. In the Dick Stockings drawings, it shows the reversing lever as the Midland type, and that's the best way I can describe it, which is a dead straight design, and the handle's on the back of it, and you just wind it forwards and backwards. I call it a Midland design because the Dick Stockings engine, the Class 2, is a mix between an Ivert and a BR. It's got BR components to it, so the water feed clacks are in the, you know, are at the front where they should be, and things like that. The regulator rod goes down the outside of the boiler to feed into under the dome, things like that. So you look at it and you go, oh, yeah, it's a BR standard 2. The screw reverser that is drawn on it is just a standard dead straight LMS style screw reverser, whereas if you know a BR standard, well, the standard 4s I think are at a 45 degree angle, the 2s and the 9s, the 9Fs, I think the 3s as well, they're at a 90 degree angle, so there's a bevel gear in there, and it's got a fancy, they called it the pizza cutter handle. So that is a reverser stand mount, well, parts of it. There's still lots more to go on to that, so I'm working on that. And then I've got the I had laser cut the not the motion brackets, the way shaft bracket out of pieces, so there's still another bit to go on to this that uses these 4 bolt holes that are there. That still needs to be TIG welded and soldered up, but there's a pair of those ready to go. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to make this other handle. Yeah, because I had, as I said in a few videos ago, I had a little jig made, laser cut, and I've made a jig so that I can bend that handle, because those 2 holes that handle sits in, even though it looks like it's just floating on the surface and I've put solder in it, there's 2 holes on the back, so it presses into the steel and it'll finish it flush on the inside, but on the outside it's got a nice handle like so. Because it's going into 2 holes, the actual handle's got to bend critically the right shape and the right distance apart and everything like that. So I've had this jig laser cut. We're going to go into the other side of the workshop now, and I'm going to show you what I've got set up ready to do the job. So stay tuned and let's get on with some work. Okay, hope you can hear me okay and everything like that. So this is the jig I had done. Upright there to stop the steel from moving. Piece around at the radius that I need it for it to bend the curve. Another one further away there. We're going to go up around that curve, dead straight down there and round this curve here. Now the last one I did, it was my second attempt, and when I went round this end, it bent. It didn't stay tight to that. Okay, and I had to put a clamp over the top here, and then kind of bash it round to get it right. I'm going to try and do it this time without having to put that clamp on. If I mess it up and I get it wrong, lesson learned, we'll start again. But I've already annealed this bit of steel rod. It's 1/8 rod. I've already annealed it, so it should be soft enough to get these two bends in. The last one I didn't anneal it. I just went for broke, which is probably where it all went wrong, because I didn't anneal it. So hopefully I won't get in the way of this video here, and you'll see what I'm doing on this. So the first bit is in there. Yeah, I'm going to bend that first radius like so. I'm going to bend it a little bit over what I need so it'll sit tight to that end. I want it to press against there, which it's doing. Yeah. Now I can see now there's a gap appeared at the back there, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do, be a bit crude, I'm going to bash it with a bit of steel to pull that in. I want it to be tight against that. And if it's tight against it, you see how it's sprung it back out a little bit. You've got to be careful here that you don't, like I've just done then, overbent it. Want to keep it nice and tight against there. And if you can keep it tight against there, it'll look nice and neat. Straighten that bit a little bit now. That's it. So we now got, can't really let go of it without it falling off. Now got a nice tight bend in here, and it's ready for me to bend this end. Like I said before, when I did this last time, I put a clamp there. Okay, putting the clamp there obviously holds it tight against that face, which that one tried to spring off. I don't want it to spring off that side. If I can help it, I need to keep it nice and tight against that curve of that round. I'm going to go a little bit beyond it. There. Now you can see it's gone a little bit over the 90, but it's equal in here. Now that other one, even though it's gone beyond the 90, that other one, I snip it off up here. It's only a 3/8 distance from the back of the cab plate work to the centre line of that. So when I snip that off, even though it's bent beyond the 90, that is going to create a nice square to that one. And then when it slots in the two holes, it's going to slot in. Should slot in perfectly. So I'm going to snip it off about there and there, and then do a test fit. So we'll take this out of the equation, measure that, put a square. What I do, square it up that way. Yeah, so I can see that there's a narrower gap there than here. So I need to just tweak it a bit more. Because it's annealed, it's really soft, so I'll get equal gap. Then I'll put a score line, mark line, and hacksaw them off. And that should give me then the correct distance, because I can measure with a ruler from there to there. Put a line, get it done. So what I'm going to do, I need to take the back of that bit of cab off. I'm going to quickly do that, mark this, get that distance right, snip it off, and then I'll press go again, and you can see if I've got it right. And if I haven't, we'll see where we went wrong. There we are. Right. So let's press through the 2 holes on the underside. Distance is right. Now, what you'll see in the shot here, there's the bending jig, and then there's a bit of round in the vise. There's a bit of round in the vise because that wasn't quite in the right spot. And what I'd done is it had lost, when you saw me pulling it back square on the square, I was obviously making the distance greater. So I pulled it off the 90. Whereas what I should have done is just left it alone, marked it at the correct distances, snipped it straight off. So what I did, because this diameter that I've turned at this end, I don't know if you can see that quite, that's the same diameter as those 2 rounds, because that's the bar stock I used in the mill, in the lathe, and then I snipped them off to solder them into that. So what I did, while this is still soft, because it's only been bent once, I just placed it round there and tapped it round with the hammer to get the radius right, so it will fit properly on there. So that now is ready for soldering. And that's its shed mate, as it were. And I've got to remember, these are handed. You can see there's an angle at the top there, look. They are handed. So I've got one for that side of the cab and one for that side of the cab. Sit out like that. So there we are. Job's a good one. Or it will be when that one's soldered. So yeah, that'll be the next job, just to run a bit of soldering those 2 handles, and then it's mark up for hinges and half round beading, I think. All being well, there we are. Easy as that. There's that solder dabbing I did on that one. I'll bring the light over, you can see it a bit better. Yeah, it has gone in the joint. I'm a bit rusty where I've not got the water out of it properly, but it's only a bending jig, so I'm not that bothered. I dabbed it there, look, if you can see that. I dabbed there, it ran round the run, it ran round it and went underneath in there, but didn't get all the way round because there's a gap there. If you can see that, there's a gap just there where it's not gone. Made a mess of the surface and everything. It's created a gap under there. So I think my way of doing it, I don't get any gaps, I don't get any misses like any of that. So I'm going to stick to the way I know. I'm doing it old dab soldering, as they call it, or whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it. Anyway, let's go on the other side. So there we are. That one's, as I say, ready for soldering. What I'd do is just as well put the 2 together like so and just check down to see if the spacing's equal and everything. It all looks okay. So what would that soldering be called? Feeding the soldering? Not dab soldering, is it? It's like feeding the wire into it. It's not really working for me to not make a mess, so I'm not going to bother with that. Couple of other bits I'll just show you quickly before we go. That's that bit of outer foot plating I've had cut. Still got the fret on it with the valance that needs to be soldered on. Lots of holes around that there, and that's for the covers for the main steam pipes. And what goes alongside with those there's these little bad boys in here. And they are tiny. Lots of little squares there. They're actually all mixed together, but there's loads of little squares there, and they sit on the underside of that plate. They're going to get, they would have been on full size, they would have been welded on, and I'm going to silver solder them to the underside of that plate, and then I'm going to tap through for 10BA screws, and just gives it a bit more strength in that plate. In full size, I think that plate's 8th plate, so all they've done is they've given it a little bit of 8th plate on the underside as well, so it's giving it a 1/4 of an inch to tap into. So, and then there's some other little bits there. That's going to be the sloping pieces that slope down to that front foot plating that's got the S-bend in it, and they create that front. You'll notice no step is going to go on those. I did a lot of research because the class 2s on that front foot plating, if you look at it, it's a little slope that goes down to the front foot plating. Some engines had a step halfway up it, and some engines didn't. Now I'm doing 78026. A lot of research, a lot of trawling of pictures. As I know, as some of you already know, I've got a lot of archive pictures, of the BR standard 2s. And I found that 78026 did not have those steps in the front foot plating, so mine will not have those steps. So if someone pulls me up for it at a show or whatever, there is method in the madness. There is a reason why I'm not putting them on, and that's because this engine didn't have them. They were all built in Darlington, the class 2s, but some had them, some didn't. Why they picked some engines over others, I don't know. I don't know if it was a region thing or what, but this engine didn't have them. So, as usual for me, I've got more stuff on order with Ed. And lots going on, lots happening with the engine. I'm going to have to move benches soon because I've got a bit of an assembly job to do that's not steam loco related. It's actually a wagon related. So everything's going to have to move, and I'm going to have to clear a bit of space. But we keep persevering, we keep trying. Thanks ever so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting. I do like questions, you know, of, oh, why have you done that way? Because it gives me something to talk about on here. Even though I do rattle on for 20 minutes or whatever. I rattle on about what I find is relevant, and hopefully generate a bit of question marks of, oh, why have you done it that way? This is why. I'll explain it in, you know, in best ways I can, in without losing people with gobbledygook of technical terms and stuff like that. As I said to someone a long time ago, they said to me, says, really like your videos because you explain things in an easier way to understand, in layman's terms or whatever. That's how I learn about stuff. I don't want to read about it because my brain can't change what I'm reading into an actual visible thing. I'm a visual learner. So if I can see something being put together, I'd probably only need to watch it once and I'd know how to do it. And I'm hoping that these videos will help with that. Especially with assembling of a class 2. You get to see what parts went where. I'm going to give a shout out. He probably doesn't even do YouTube. I'm going to give a shout out to a chap called Barry Lamb, and he's got links to the BR standard 278019 or 18. Anyway, Barry Lamb is part of the Darlington Locomotive Preservation Society, and he shared a load. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he shared a lot of archive pictures of their BR Standard 2 when they got it from Barry Scrapyard, when they took it from Darlington down to Loughborough, it in different stages of being taken apart, different stages of being put together. And it has really helped me understand what I'm doing in different parts, where they fit, how they look, what they should have, what they shouldn't have, and all that type of thing. So a big shout out to him. I did thank him actually on his Facebook for sharing them, because they're an invaluable picture. You know, seeing something that came from Barry, you can recognise stuff. I recognise stuff straight away and going, oh, that fits there and that looks all right over there. So hats off to him. It was really good. So yeah, hopefully this type of thing helps people if they're building an engine and they want to add a bit of detail, especially even if it's a 5-inch one. Principles are the same, just smaller. So, you know, be like, oh, well, I want to add detail to my engine or whatever, see where things fit, how they look and all the rest of it. So anyway, thank you ever so much watching, liking, subscribing, and we'll see you on the next video update. I can't tell you when that will be, because I'm still busy with normal day-to-day work and life stuff at home. So yeah, see you all soon. Stay hydrated still.